She knew she was done before she arrived. Not anxious, not panicked, just finished in a quiet, unmistakable way. A knowing that doesn't argue or explain itself. Still, she went. The reason felt simple enough: a new sister being welcomed into the family. She loved this welcoming and wanted to mark it with her presence. But care has a long memory in her body, and obligation often wears the same face. From the moment she stepped inside, her system shifted, not dramatically, subtly. Her eyes tracked the room, where people stood, where pathways narrowed, who was already there, the places she could move without being seen too closely. None of this rose to the level of thought. It simply happened, like a map drawn in the background. She stayed polite, she smiled, she found a place to stand that felt least exposed. The room was full of small noises, conversations overlapping, laughter landing unevenly. Time stretched in a way that felt expensive. She noticed how hard it was to move freely without crossing the wrong line of sight, how each step carried calculation. She told herself she could manage it. She always had. But as the evening went on, stimulation increased. A game ensued, one fast and loud, that narrows attention and sharpens edges. She felt the familiar tightening, the sense of being pulled forward toward participation she didn't want. Declining would draw attention, staying would cost her body. She hovered in that space, waiting for the moment to pass. It didn't. Instead, her heart began to race. Not fear exactly, more like a surge, a sudden demand for movement when movement felt constrained. She recognized it quickly. This was not the beginning of collapse. This was the body insisting on an outcome. She stood up, drank some water, offered a quiet goodbye to the beloved one she had come to honor, and then she stepped out, threading her way through the room with more care than grace, aware of eyes, aware of stories that might be told in her absence. Outside, the air felt different, wider. Her breath slowed without instruction. Later, she let her thoughts drift upon how presence had been framed for most of her life, how showing up meant staying, how leaving early was treated as a failure of loyalty or love, how endurance had been mistaken for generosity. She would realize that nothing about that night required her to prove care by sacrificing her nervous system. She had come to witness, and she had done that. The rest was habit. And in the quiet that followed, she understood something new. Leaving was not a rejection of the moment, it was an acknowledgement of its cost and a choosing of herself, even awkwardly, was not the absence of care. Instead, it was the first boundary she had drawn in a very long time.